Welcome to the Pension Power podcast to help you feel more confident, informed, and in control of your retirement planning. I'm Georgie Frost, award-winning financial broadcaster and journalist, and I'm here with Tracy Blackwell, who will join me for this three-part series. Tracy has a wealth of knowledge and will share a bit more about her personal perspective on pension planning and saving. And together we'll be answering some of the questions that you've been asking. Tracy, it's brilliant to have you with us. Firstly, you've been in pensions your whole professional life. What changes have you seen in pensions over that period, and especially at your time at PIC? And why is this series important to you?
Well, great. Thanks, Georgie. I'm delighted to join. So at PIC, we all think about pensions professionally all the time. You know, that's what we do. But that doesn't always mean that we actually are fully engaged with our own pensions. And pensions have changed a lot over our time. You know, we insure defined benefit schemes, which means that you know what you're getting for your retirement. But nowadays, we're all enrolled and invested in defined contribution schemes, which means you're very much responsible for how it's invested and looking after it and making sure that you're doing the right thing. So, you know, with the cost of living and very busy lives and everything else going on, sorting out our retirement savings often just slips down our priority list. And we think it's really important that we remind everybody out there that actually looking at your pension, thinking about your pension and how it's invested is incredibly important for your long-term future.
I couldn't agree with you more on all of that. The responsibility nowadays on everyone is so huge from the start, you know, how much you're saving to also what you do with that money to make sure that it lasts you through retirement. And pensions can feel really overwhelming. So over the next 3 short episodes, we're going to break things down simply and practically so you can feel more in control, more confident about your financial future. So we'll cover things like how to get started at any age or get you back on track if you've gone off track, how to make the most of your pension during your peak earning years, and how to get retirement ready with confidence. But in this episode, Tracy, we're going to go back to basics. So if you've never opened your pension statement, never taken a good look at it, or you've been meaning to sort this out for years, but just not got round to it, this is the episode for you. So we'll look at how to check what you already have, what a realistic retirement might cost you and how to get there, and the really simple things that you can do now to make a big difference later on. So if you reckon you're pretty up to speed on the foundations of pensions and retirement planning, you might want to jump to episodes 2 and 3, but this could be just a really good refresher. Tracy, at PIC, you have a broad audience, right?
Yeah, we have lots of actuaries and other specialists who obviously understand this stuff, but we have lots of other employees as well who wouldn't necessarily consider their pension. So really, it's all about getting them engaged and involved in looking after their pension and helping where we can.
So let's take it from the top. A pension is simply a long-term savings plan that's designed to pay for your life once you've stopped working. So you contribute through your working life. Your employer, if you have one, often contributes as well. And then the government adds tax relief. So over the decades, that money is invested and hopefully grows. And there are 3 parts to your retirement savings that many people will have. The first is your current workplace or your personal pension. Second, any old pensions from previous jobs or personal pensions. And then it's the state pension based on your national insurance record. It is one of the most tax-efficient ways to build wealth. Tracy, what are your thoughts on the current pension system, though?
The current pension system really has slightly left people to it on their own. And there needs to be a little more help and guidance in terms of helping people understand, you know, it's a big change going from your pension is being looked after for you to you're looking after your own pension. And so I think just a bit more handholding and a bit more education really is incredibly helpful in terms of understanding things like if you start saving early, it's incredibly important. And that understanding where your money is invested, does that chime with your risk appetite and your values? It's really difficult right now as well. I know with the cost of living crisis that, you know, saving into one's pension seems like a really big task actually and slightly worrying, but it's for your financial future. And so saving today and understanding how that's invested for the very long term is probably the most important thing you can do to actually build your long-term retirement wealth.
As a journalist, it's one of the things that I come up against the most is that cost of living. I have so many financial pressures. What's the point? Especially young people as well, thinking, I just want to get on the property ladder. Why should I be thinking about my pension? And also, we've got auto enrollment. So a lot of people think look, I'm auto-enrolled, it's absolutely fine, I'm saving, just let that tick along and that's enough. And auto-enrollment, let's be honest, has been absolutely brilliant. So it was introduced in 2012, rolled out over some years, and since that time, over 11 million people have been automatically signed up to their workplace pension schemes. Currently, the minimum contribution is 8%. You don't pay in 8%, you pay in 5%, your workplace 3%. Of course, you get government tax relief. And while that is a solid base, and it's absolutely marvellous to say millions of people are engaged in their pension, how engaged they are is up to debate, but they are at least saving. It really is unlikely to be enough to create the sort of lifestyle in retirement that I imagine lots of people do want. So official figures, and these are quite scary, but the number of people not saving enough for retirement at 12 million, or almost 2/5 of the working age population. So that is where we are right now. Tracy, you have some questions that staff have sent in. Let's start with one of those, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that. So, first of all, thanks to everyone who sent in their questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can throughout the episodes. They won't all be in the first one. But the first question is, please, can you give an example of how compound interest can turn modest contributions into a significant pension pot? Or, and put it another way, is it too late to save into a pension?
Well, first of all, I'm always going to say it's not too late, but I will give you an example that we personal finance journalists love. It's a theoretical example, and we use two twins. So Constance and Hope. Now, Constance is very sensible. She puts away £150 a month into her pension from the age of 20 when she gets her first job. And she continues to do that until she's 65. By the time she retires, she has a pot worth just over £300,000. Now, her twin, Hope, is busy out enjoying life. She spends her money through her 20s and 30s, and then she panics at 40. In order for Hope to reach the same £300,000 as her twin by 65, she has to save around £510 a month, so more than 3 times as much as Constance. Now, the striking part of this, and something that we forget, is Constance puts in £81,000 of her own money through her life, through her working life. The rest, around 73%, comes from investment growth. Hope, on the other hand, needs to put in £153,000 of her own money to get that same figure, so almost double. Only about half her final pot comes from growth. So same pot, completely different price tags for the two women. Time and compounding, building growth on growth, essentially, is what compounding is. Think of it like a snowball going down a hill, picking up more snow as it goes along the way, going faster and faster and faster. That does most of the work for Constant. Hope has to do more of it herself. Now, look, I just want to point out, this is an illustrative example. I'm not saying anyone who hasn't got cracking in their sort of late 30s, 40s has been spending away their life. Not at all. I'm actually in a very similar position as this, which is why I am so passionate about it. I didn't start properly saving into a pension until I was in my 30s because I had a major back injury, which made it very difficult for me to work, to earn a lot of money. So I'm super passionate about this. You just have to accept you are going to have to work a little bit harder. But, and we'll get onto this in episode 2, your peak earning years will be the time when you need to save a little bit harder. So you have that on your side. I would say there's a rule of thumb that says the age at which you start saving for a pension, halve it, and that's the percentage you need to add. So if you start at 20, like Constant, it's 10% of your salary. At 40, you're looking at 20%. It is a rough guide, but it is useful nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that people also forget about is does matter what rate that compounding is happening at. So too many people leave their savings and even their pensions in cash. And that's really not working for you. That compounding doesn't really happen to the same extent. People are nervous a lot of times about taking risk and putting money into the market. But actually that compounding is your friend. And by saving early, you can weather the ups and downs over time of the market and really benefit from that compounding. So I think it's really, really important to realize what you're invested in.
Absolutely right. So if you are going to get serious with your retirement savings, you really need to know from what base that you're working from. So you need to check. And the chances are that you will probably have more than you think you do. So 4 quick checks, I would say, is firstly, your current workplace pension. So log in and check the pot size and the contributions. Tracy, how can you do that at PIC?
Well, L&G, who is our pension provider, has a great app. You can also just go online and do it through that. That's exactly what happened to me. I hadn't looked at my pension for ages, and I logged into the L&G website, and I realized I had a lot more in there than I thought I did. So, sometimes actually it's a good surprise to kind of see what you have, but that actually just then makes you do something about it. But in that app and on the website, at a glance, you can see the value of your pension, your regular contributions, and how your pension is performing and what it is invested in. So it has some really useful features.
So that's your current workplace. Now, old pensions. This figure absolutely baffles me every time I read it. The Association of British Insurers estimates there is £26 billion sitting in lost or forgotten pension pots in the UK. Isn't that figure staggering? But when you think about the fact that we're going to be working on average, I think around about 11 different roles, moving, of course, a lot of people forget it. They might not know they're auto-enrolled, and so you forget you might have a pension. So there's a free government service to track your lost pensions. It's called the Pension Tracing Service. You just need your old employer's name or the name of your pension provider if you remember it. Also in there are personal pensions. If you've ever freelanced or you've opened one yourself to top up extra, then it's worth looking at those. Also check your state pension forecast. Now this tells you how much you're on track to get and whether you have gaps in your national insurance, because you need 35 qualifying years to get the full state pension and 10 years to get any at all. So how you check? The quickest way is by using the online service on the gov.uk website. So you need to sign in with a government gateway account or create one. Or you can request a paper forecast by calling the Future Pension Centre or downloading and mailing the BR19 application form. I don't expect you to remember all this, but if you go to gov.uk, it will tell you everything you need to know about it. But once you've got those 4 bits of information, you have a much clearer picture of your starting point, so you know how far on or off track you are. And as Tracy said, look, probably you work out you have more than you expected. It's actually a really great boost, an incentive for you to want to keep going and save a bit more, I found.
Great. Shall we look at more of the questions that were sent in? Right. The next one is, how can you work out how much you will need in retirement?
So this is where lifestyle planning matters. Now, the PLSA, the Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association, every year they produce this retirement living standards, which gives us a rough benchmark of what you can expect. So they talk about a minimum standard. A single person will need £13,400 a year. For a couple, it's £21,600. Now, it goes through 3 different standards, so minimum, moderate and comfortable. I'll go through the single because I don't want to bombard everybody with all these figures, but for a couple, you need probably about 50% more. But why it's really useful is for the first time you can picture the sort of retirement. I mean, I love this because whenever I talk about this on my podcast, basically they give examples of a minimum lifestyle is about 4 cans of Carling. A moderate is some IPA, whereas a comfortable is a bottle of Sauvignon, right? Whether you drink or not, but it is illustrative and it is really useful. So for a minimum standard, you're looking at 13,000, and that covers the basics. We're talking food, energy, clothes, a week's holiday in the UK, occasional socialising, no car, very little wiggle room, not something that anyone will be aiming for. A moderate, for a single person, you're looking around £31,700 a year. Bit more comfort, eating out a few more times, running a small car, week abroad each year, you get the picture. Comfortable standard, which I imagine what most people would aspire to have, £43,900 a year. So more freedom, more flexibility, regular meals out, holidays abroad, a new car every few years, more generous budget for clothes, that sort of thing. Now, what's the key number that people are wanting to know is, well, what pot would I need to achieve that? Now, for a moderate lifestyle, you're looking at around 330,000 to 490,000. For a comfortable, 540 to 800,000. Now that sounds absolutely huge. Remember, the full state pension currently gives you around £11,500 a year. So obviously that helps, but it won't get you all the way there. Not everyone will need those figures, right? What I consider comfortable, Tracy, may be different to what you consider comfortable. But the questions that you need to think about is, what age do you want to retire? And do you think you will want to be doing some work or able to do some work in your retirement? Will you still have a mortgage or be renting by the time that you retire? Bearing in mind these figures that I've just given you, assume that you've already paid off your mortgage. Do you want to travel? What sort of life do you want to have? Will you have anyone to depend on you? That's also key. You don't need the exact answers, you just need to have an idea in your head. So if you know how much you have, you know how much you'll need, then you can start to figure out if you're contributing enough. And there are a number of really useful tools out there. One of the handiest I find is a pension calculator. So you can go to Money Helper, there's one on the L&G website, or a platform like PensionBee all have really good ones. So basically you plug in your current pot, how much you're contributing, and your retirement age. And it shows you what your future pot could look like, and you can play around with it. The key message is don't panic if the number looks big. Even small increases, and we'll talk about this as the episodes go on, make a huge difference. You do not need to fix everything overnight. You just need to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. You really do. It goes back to our example on compounding. The earlier you start, the more that the heavy lifting can be done by your investments for you, rather than you necessarily having to do it yourself entirely. Okay, on to the next one. How can you factor in the potential of a career break or reduced hours, when you have to care for your young family or in fact your parents? How do you factor all that into your pension planning? Are there any tools available to help?
So this is really relevant to me as well because I'm about to move to Canada for a few years. And because I'm a freelancer, how much you're allowed to pay into your pension is figured out on your previous year's earnings. Now, of course, I won't have worked in Canada, so I won't be able to contribute anything while I'm here. So I'm figuring this all out now. And that's the key to this is really think about it. If you are planning on taking a career break or a period of reduced hours, or you're not able for some reason to contribute to your pension, then the best thing to do is to build it into your pension plan as early as you can, which means in practice running the numbers before you step back. So most workplace pension providers, as we mentioned earlier, have these calculators where you can model stopping contributions for a year or two, cutting contributions temporarily, lowering your salary. So this shows you how much it changes your projected pension income so you can decide whether you need to top up before or after the break, which leads me on to increasing your contributions before the break if you can, which is what I'm doing. I'm doubling my contributions right now, but you don't have to do it that much. Even an extra 1 to 2% in the years leading up can soften that dip. Because of tax relief, your employer contributions, this can be surprisingly efficient. Keep contributing during the break if you're able. This is really important. If you're taking parental leave and still technically employed, you might be able to keep paying in based on your full salary while your employer contributes based on your reduced pay. It depends on the scheme, but it is really worth checking. I also say, particularly for mums and dads on parental leave, if you have a partner and they're working, have a conversation with them about contributing to your pot too. Also, budget for return to work top up. Even £20 to £50 a month once you're earning again, you're back to work, can smooth out that gap created during time off. And use tools, you mentioned there, Tracy, tools to help you plan. So your pension provider's online modeler, most have them. The government's Check Your State Pension and Plan Your Retirement Income tools. Money Helper's pension calculator, which lets you model breaks and different contribution levels. The message is simple. A career break does not have to derail your retirement. You just need to see the impact early and plan around it.
Thanks, Georgie. That is an absolutely brilliant foundation. I think for me, the key messages are start early, save often, and really let your investments and therefore compound interest help you do the heavy lifting.
So I would say for everyone listening then, your, dare I say it, Tracy, homework this week is very simple. So don't worry. Find your pensions, search for the 5-day challenge on Huddle, which can help with this. Check what you have and get your state pension forecast. That's it. In our next episode, we'll look at how to supercharge your pension once you're earning more or ready to make bigger moves. Before you go, a quick reminder that this podcast is for general information only. It isn't financial or investment advice. Investments can rise and fall in value, and you could get back less than what you put in. If you're unsure about anything to do with your pensions or your wider finances, it's a good idea to speak to an independent financial advisor.